Welcome back to Recoup. Today is the last day of 2025. Today is Wednesday, December 31st, 2025. I'm Sweets. This is Sid. This is our last call of the year. This is our Wednesday check-in where we talk about what we've been delivering for this week. Today, I would like to change up what our usual focus is and talk about what our goals are for 2026. Is that an okay pivot?
Yeah. Okay. It's Wednesday though. Do you want to do that Friday or you want to do that Wednesday today?
We don't have a meeting on Friday.
Oh, did I remove it? Can you do Friday or do you want to keep it open? Just a second.
I'll be driving down to Florida to catch a flight in Miami on Friday. I might be able to join, but I will definitely be in travel mode.
No, it's cool. Don't worry about it. Then yeah, let's just talk about stuff 2026 today.
Cool. So what have your thoughts been so far? Have you spent time thinking about the goals for next year?
Yeah, I have. I've also been reading a bunch of stuff. I literally flooded the stuff to read channel over the past week. But I'd like you to start and kick it off with what you're feeling, what you're thinking, the transition going into more focus on Recoup. I'm just curious to see where you think your time is best spent.
I've written down, wrote down the 10-year goal that you've said, which is make the music industry autonomous. And then I've got a goal for 2026 to move us in that direction, as well as quarterly goals. The goal for the year, I've written down retention of accounts in enterprise orgs. So for all of our enterprise clients, get the people that are members of those organizations to be retained. That being the underlying metric. How many, how retained are they? If members of enterprise orgs are retained, they continue to pay us money. They don't churn. If they don't churn, they tell their friends about it. Leads to more enterprise clients, leads to sustainable business in 2026.
I agree. I would add one thing, which is the part of that I was going to talk about before I asked you. So this is like a good kind of convergence. The thing that I want to make sure that we think about in 2026, well, there's two things, but they kind of work together. One is making sure that our engineering pipeline stays as cutting edge as possible. Just in general, the project, what we're working on, how we ship, everything stays as cutting edge as possible. And we develop this, we build with the systems to intentionally allow that. And I think we've been doing a good job at that, or at least like we've been thinking through that. And I think this year has, if anything, taught us like how fast AI moves and how you have to kind of prepare for like next month re-architecting, or like next month a new model comes out, or setting up engineering a different way, or things like that. And so like I just want to make sure that that's on the top of the radar too, and we don't get stuck in the weeds like the 99% of teams, which are like going to continue to do the workflows the old, like their comfort way. So just being comfortable being uncomfortable and kind of on the cutting edge of stuff. But that's my main thought. I agree with everything else. Other than that, it's just enterprise retention. There's like a question that I have about like where the enterprise value of retention comes from. If there is a different layer of retention weights per employee at the enterprise level, because you have like C-suite and at the same time like in the trenches junior staff, and like do we treat them all equally? Do we have to think through retention in different ways? Like, so just thinking through conceptually the weights of retention and focus areas of that. But I agree with you.
That makes sense. You want to make sure that we stay on the cutting edge and that we don't get left behind, and we're continuing to keep our stack built clean so that we can swap out parts as needed to stay up to date.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. Swap out parts A/B test things and do it in a way that doesn't break prod, but also like allows us to always be a year ahead of everybody else in our space.
Small team and clean code feel like two things we've got working in our favor that most other teams don't have, that will allow us to continue to do that going into 2026. What I've got for the 4 quarters, Q1 is kind of continuation of Q4. Email and SMS clients. I'd like us to put ourselves close to them, to where the people we want to retain are. They spend time in their email, they spend time in SMS. I would like us to shift focus from prioritizing the web client to prioritizing the email and SMS, getting it right, making it awesome, figuring out how we can make it better for them, getting in automated daily messages that go to them, starting automated pipelines that send them emails, getting everything to go back into either an SMS text message or into an email, trying to really get those right, because those are places where OpenAI is not focused, Claude's not focused, any of the other music industry players are not focused. They're focused on web chat clients. Everybody's focused on web chat clients. And I think us meeting people where they are is where I see the future of this industry going, less forcing them to come over to us and more us meeting them there. And 2, it gives us this powerful key of push notifications on their phone, and to whatever their email client is. We don't have to build out a mobile app. They're going to get push notifications from their email client, which they trust more than a brand new mobile app that they might not trust. So Q1, I think email and SMS clients get it really, really good. We're almost there on a V0 or a V1 of the email client. We still need to do SMS. And I think once they're there, we then have to, there's a whole bunch of different nuances for customer behavior that we'll see in an email client that we have not seen in a web interface that we can totally control.
Agreed. But again, and then going back to what you were saying of like building the architecture to support the different clients in different ways, because like email, you're going to want prompts and specific things and et cetera. So yeah, I agree 1,000%.
Yep. Maybe that gets your Slack client in. Really, I agree. Building it out so that we have multiple clients, not just web. Number 2, I think Q2, media generation on par with Higgsfield. I would love for us to be able, this is totally.
You're saying the Higgsfield platform?
Yeah. Whether we are building on their API or if we are including it. One of the artists I'm executive producing right now is doing a lot of their work in Higgsfield. I know a lot of the record label services are doing Higgsfield. Recoup has asked for media generation pipelines. It seems like a lot of the value that artists I'm working with and labels I'm working with, they use media generation, and then right now is a part of our stack that's not there. If that's not what we do, we can cut that out with something else. That's just something I've written down to achieve the goal of retaining enterprise.
Well, I mean, so we have to just be like, so Higgsfield is they have their own model, but it's also more so a platform or harness for the models. So we just have to just look into what, when you say incorporating Higgsfield, like what does that mean? Is it the model, or are you saying just like make our media harness more like Higgsfield?
Make our media harness more like Higgsfield. It does look like they do have a cloud API. So ideally we're building on what they're doing, and then Higgsfield becomes our content generation backend, and we focus on how we present it, how we package it, what our workflows are. But then when video generation, media generation, campaign generation happens, we do that on the top tier. Artists I'm seeing are putting in their budget Higgsfield. And so if we can build on top of that.
So there's 2 things about that, which I agree with. I think Higgsfield. So there's 2 video media platforms that I use most. One is Higgsfield. The other is Weavy. Weavy is Weavy.
Okay.
And they just got bought by Figma, but they're a node-based platform. Now Higgsfield will probably end up doing that as well. Like, so everybody has node-based eventually, but let me give you the reasoning why and the framing. Higgsfield, to me, they have achieved a great thing around like quick prompt templatized. So like you can go in and do like really quick things because they have like all of these templatized shot lists, and it's really just prompt injecting things, right? Weavy gives you much more control and like editing and things like that. So like those are I would add Weavy to your list of like, if somebody wants to do a music video, like I wouldn't do it in Higgsfield. I would do it with Weavy, you know? So it's like the more extendable version.
Okay. That sounds good to me.
Cool.
I should have probably made this point more general of top tier media generation or something like that.
But I like how you gave it a reference, because it gives us a place to like say, here's the benchmark like of what we're competing against, or at least like customer expectation wise. They could go there. Why would they choose us when they could go there?
So at this point in Q2, record label executives and members are getting emails from us every day. We are a part of their active workflow in text and email. They're getting advice from us, any part of their process. They're sending us emails, they're CCing us. We have all the data of what their workflows are. They're including Recoup in that conversation. They're also using us for campaign stuff, any small media creation. In their emails, they're generating media, they're generating art for their campaigns, videos. They're looping it right in, sending it right over to the artist, wherever it needs to go. We've done the bulk of what the record labels have asked us for so far. I see Q3 as label services, expanding us across the label stack, whatever their label services are. We now are included in all their workflows. We're getting CC'd. We have a ton of data on what the services are and what they lack and how we can help. Expand out our suite of tools to be able to support all the verticals for label services inside of our enterprise clients, so that any vertical inside of the record label stack, we are offering tools inside of those label services. So I think just make very robust label services tools inside of Recoup.
I like it.
Q4, I think the next step after that is build for our competitors. Make it a no, so that if anybody else is in the same position that Sid is in, saying, dude, it's a no-brainer that AI is merging with music, we need to build this tool for record labels, they can build on top of our stack, focusing on if another competitor comes, it's a no-brainer for them to build on us, because like you said, we're staying on the latest version of the tech. We're a small team, we're more affordable. I want to make it easy for anybody to build their own label, whether you're our current enterprise customers, and that's what we're doing right now. We're their AI stack. If you want to compete against us and you want to build a competitor of Recoup because you don't like how we structure things, if you're an independent artist and you want to build your own record label rather than signing to a record label, I think anybody should be able to come to us, whether you're on the free tier, pro tier, or enterprise tier, and you come to Recoup to build your AI record label. That's what we're doing, is you build your own AI record label, and Q4 is really trying to make that integration layer good for independent artists, pro tier managers, and enterprise tier record labels. You come to Recoup to build an autonomous record label, and a record label that works for you, that's customized to your own bells and whistles. It's a record label builder.
I like it. Yeah, modular record label builder, because like, yeah, I really like it.
So those are the Q4. Q1, email and SMS. Q2, media generation on par with Higgsfield or Weavy. Q3, label services. Q4, build for our competitors, build your own label. Goal being retain the accounts that are inside of our enterprise orgs, so that way we create the financial base this year, so that we can really 10x in 2027.
I really like it. I really like what you said about making it so anybody can create their own record label, which eventually means agents create their record label for the artists. But like they need the tools to be able to put the stack together. And so like that's what the stack we're building. I really like it. I like the framing. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk through that I've been reading on, thinking through, that I think like there's a layer of are we doing the architecture correctly, that I don't know where that fits into like the quarterly goals, right? Like it's like, I'll give you a great example of like I sent you actually I'll just give you a couple of things of just like the question of how do we do what you said, but also like leave room to keep our architecture as up to date as possible, and leave room so that like we can test uh, why the other platforms and other people are doing things that they're doing. So I'll give you an example. Claude Skills. Claude Skills is an example that like I've heard about for the last 3 to 6 months since they've launched. It keeps getting talked about on my feed. I've like made a skill or two, but I don't use Claude a lot. But I do understand the concept of like, okay, why would you call a skill? Uh, because it it's it's like a level above prompting. It's a level below sub agents, right? So like, where does that fall into our stack? And then the question becomes like, how do we implement skills? Where do we implement skills? Why? And so what I'm trying to think through is like, where do we give ourselves the room to understand where skills falls into our stack? Because if we don't give ourselves the room, we will end up not using it, you know, and
Mhm.
and we'll just be accustomed to like not understanding that. So I think like that's like one example of it. Like, but like there's all of these like things that like people keep building on top of these. Like for example, just like the code sandboxes, you know, and like executing tool calls and like, so just think like, I guess just like the room for architecture and playing around in like this, like staying on the cutting edge, understanding what all of the shit is doing and why are these tools, like what do we need to execute all of our tools in uh you know in code instead of so like there's just a lot of like little things like that where like I know that once we get into the weeds of things like shipping features, it's hard to add that to the calendar. You know, explore weeks, explore ship weeks. You know, so I just want to I just want to be cautious of that, to make sure that we're staying again like on the cutting edge, and that like maybe I don't know if it's like there's a print, like if it's a set week per month that we say we're not shipping features, we're focused on implementing any new intentional things into our features. I don't know if it's a just like a principle of like when we find something that's interesting that more than a couple of the foundation models are adopting, we should like make it, we should try to figure out how to weave it into our workflow, or try it, like, but like just little things that allow us to like not fall into the trap of I don't have time to figure that part out. uh, and it doesn't affect me right now, so I'm not worried, because like that's 99% of everybody is that mentality. Like I don't have time to figure that out. So I don't know the answer, but that's like I think the one thing, if there's a differentiator between how like our team and our competitors, I think that's one of them, is if we can master the art of being 20 steps ahead of everybody, and like knowing why you would implement skills and where, you know.
Yeah. Your last part makes a lot of sense of seeing what's coming out and knowing where to implement it. The trap we can fall in is seeing everything that comes out and trying to constantly try it all. Knowing what we're building towards and what our principles are will help us be able to see what is a noise announcement and what is something to try. Skills, for example, I've been hearing skills, and that to me is like, that's what I built on Amazon Alexa. That was the first stuff I was doing with AI. Alexa had skills, Google had actions. Those were the original apps on AI assistants back in the 2016 era. 10 years ago, we were building skills. I was building skills. My entire agency was a company came to me and we built a skill. A skill is a bundling of intents and tools, and it's probably a similar mental model. And they probably use that term to reactivate builders like me that were building on Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant 10 years ago. The first place I think of skills is our create artist flow. A skill is like creating an artist. It's a bundle of, it's not a full sub agent. It is a group of actions to accomplish a task. So like create new artists feels like a good skill of you create an artist, you do the deep research, you create the knowledge base, you attach it to an artist.
It's
That's
yeah. So yeah, the skills specifically is it's exactly that. It's an MD file which contains the prompt and the instructions, for the skill. It's a folder that contains a prompt, which is the skill.md of that specific skill. Then it contains any executable code, and it contains any like references or documents or files or whatever. And they're called deterministically by the model. And Claude just has that, and ChatGPT just launched it. So the foundation models are moving to the primitive of we don't just call tools, we can also call skills, which is a bundle of more things deterministically. And so thinking through our stack of where do tools fit in, where do skills fit in, where do subagents fit in, where do like our harness, like how does our harness operate? You know, I think that like, and then figuring out like how do we make sure we give ourselves the room to understand that?
Yeah. This year I didn't write as much. I would like to next year spend more time writing about what we're actively thinking and how we're implementing it. I don't know how important it is publicity wise, but
I think it's incredibly important. When you say writing, you mean like writing it like out to document it, and then also like drawing it out like on your notebook and things like. I 100% agree with you. I didn't do enough of it either, and I think that if we adopt the same mentality that we did with video last year, where it's like just record everything and put it out, like build publicly on video with our meetings. I think what you just said was a great principle to like layer on top of going into next year, which is like, why not just do the same principle with images and writing? Like, especially if we're going to start creating more like plans before we ship things, or like, you know, like we could just create like use that as like create like a slash like research.recoupable.com or something, which just contains all of our thoughts, findings, how we're doing things, how we're building our architecture. Just get really in the weeds on that. I love that idea.
So the first thing I'll try to do is I'll try to write out what I have here and take this and to make a more formal article. And that'll be my next starting place is, okay, we're reflecting on 2025, maybe reflect on what we built this year. That could be one. Writing out the plan for next year, just taking it out of these ethereal video meetings and making it a more concrete, written, searchable, indexable, discoverable SEO document that we can either put on our site or just have. Just having it written, I think, gives us something to reference back to and gives me a chance to take these things that feel very clear in my mind and put it in a very concise written document that I can share with you. We can share with others. People can stay informed, and it's a different medium than the videos that are a little bit more seat of our pants in the moment. Not the written feels a little bit more formalized, like official type of thing.
I agree. I have a question about speed. No, not speed. That's the wrong thing. Let me go back. I have a question about delegation. And this is stemming from you said all of your stuff, and then I just remembered, like, you know what's missing from that list? Like connecting or social media clients, like LinkedIn, like being able to post on TikTok, things like that. Like there's like this whole world that we haven't tackled yet on that side. I guess it kind of falls into the label services Q2 thing, but like, my question is that thinking through, like, just like we're thinking through the architecture of our platform or our product or our harness, whatever you want to call it, thinking through the architecture of our build and our engineering team and where and how we operate, like, how do we make sure that, like, it's funny, I was thinking through this, like, we are both learning to code in like a new way. I'm learning from scratch. You're learning in like this new architecture, right? Or this with like these new models, and we both have to like relearn things and processes. And so I'm thinking of like treating that side, not just thinking through architecture of like, and documenting and posting public the architecture of like the product, but the other side of it is like, how are we thinking through building out our engineering org with agents? When do we bring in other engineers? Why? Like, anyways, I'm ranting, but let me go back to this. The question was, or my initial question was going to be, is there any value in us just finding an engineer and paying for a specific scope of work for things that we know need to be implemented? We know we could write out the scope for, but may not be on a priority of caliber level of you. The first thing I think of is we have Composio. It has a bunch of clients that we could set up. It's just a tedious time effort. Is it something where one, like, we could just hire an engineer for a week or two to just literally just integrate all of these into the platform for us? We already did YouTube, so we have the, YouTube and Gmail, or I'm sorry, Google Sheets. So we have like those two implementations. One's at the artist level, workspace level. One's at the user or customer level. So go do it for all of these.
Mm-hmm.
So like thinking through when do we implement and like do those kinds of hooks, either getting a human to go do it or saying, I want Cloud Code to go do it. Like go run for a week and see if you can implement all of Composio for me. Like, but I think, and then documenting all of those, like those are the kinds of articles that are going to be like incredibly valuable, not just to us, but like to other builders and other engineers, which will then funnel engineers to us, because we're talking about the engineering side of things, not just, not just musicians. Exactly. And we want engineers who want to make a record label to use our tools.
Correct.
So yeah, I'm ranting, but like, I think you understand what I'm talking about.
You did a great job finding Veerbal this year. He added a lot of value, especially on the UI side for generative UI. If we can continue to find devs like that operate with us on a very short-term contract that could extend to longer time frame, is a great idea. I think your idea of the clients using Composio is a great idea, because it's a very confined workspace. We can bring them in with a very confined scope, and if they do well and want to continue to build with us, great. And if not, it's parallelizes our dev work. However, the only thing to consider is what Horsefax says of dev time does not scale as more devs come in, because when a dev comes in, someone needs to onboard them, someone needs to explain the workflow, someone needs to communicate tasks, someone needs to review the code, someone needs to test the code. Those are likely me. And so every minute that I'm spending with that dev is time that I'm not spending on my other tasks. And so while it does increase the number of devs that can do stuff, my overall time to do the tasks that I need to do goes down, because I'm reviewing their code, I'm communicating to them, I'm paying them, all the things that comes in with having an additional person here. So I do think that's what I recommend is we do this test, and we keep trying to bring on devs and keep evaluating the balance between, okay, how much am I able to deliver without another dev? And then, okay, we bring in another dev, measuring the impacts in the same way that we just reflected last year on Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, having Veerbal in, not having Veerbal in.
I really I think, yeah. And also thinking through, like, I like how you say things like it's an art, not science. And I think this is one of those things where it's an art, not science, of just like figuring it out on the fly and like just playing around. Because like there's a part of me that feels like the reason, well, one, there's a part of me that feels like this is a perfect example of like, we haven't really dove into Claude Code. I'm literally seeing Claude Code every day on my timeline with people like Andrew Karpathy saying like, I'm let this thing run for a week and then it fixes bugs and does like the craziest shit for me. So it's like, all right, cool. So, well, on one spectrum of this, it's, could Claude Code, where do we implement Claude Code in our workflow? How do we give ourselves the space? Where in our roadmap are there the tickets that we feel comfortable giving to Claude Code and trying out and seeing? Because like, it's not the end of the world if it fails, right? Like Composio stuff. And on the other side is, well, and two, let me actually stay on this side. And also that makes incredible content of like, I tried to Claude Code for a week, here's my results, right? The other side is, when I got Veerbal, it was specifically because I was following him, but it was really like I saw him build the mermaid tool customer had asked or in a meeting said like, man, I wish I could do mermaids in ChatGPT. I saw and I said, Verbal, implement the thing I know you can do into our code base. Like that was the initial, how much would it cost for you to do this thing that I know you can do into this? It started off with less like, let me see how good this guy is and let me see if he can like work into our flow. And it was like, I know he can do this, let's do this. So maybe there's also this world of like, how do we find how are we sourcing engineers and building out our org in the long term, which is just like talent retention, cultivating relationships, finding those outlier engineers who we like want to like grow with, and then giving them the time of day. But then where are the engineers that were like, all right, I found this guy on Twitter. He literally did an open source, Composio demo. I know he's done it before. How much would you charge to go do that in our code base, dude? Right. And like, so you have to worry less about cultivating the relationship. And it's more like, let me see how this guy implemented it. He's the expert in this thing. He's already done it. All right, cool. Thank you, dude. Here's your money. We'll talk to you if we need more things down the line. But it's like less on yourself. So I guess, again, treating everything with like more art and not science.
That's ideal. Because my native is going onto Upwork and posting a gig, and then those people are like going to try to fit the square peg into a round hole of I want money, I want their money, so I'll do that thing because they want me to do it. Your method, I think, is ideal of this person's already interested in doing it. They're doing it without getting paid. They could get paid to learn. That's going to excite them more. That's gasoline on their fire of something they already want to do. They're already thinking creatively about it. It aligns our incentives much more of, okay, they want to do it on their own. Let's pay them to learn and then just skew the direction a little bit to do it on top of Recoup. I think that feels like a more ideal and sincere way to hire for these contracts. So however you did that with Veerball, that feels like the plan that however we can repeat that experiment again.
Yeah. And
I agree with 100%.
And understanding, getting really good, clear on with each other on when is a candidate worth cultivating for a longer term? Like when should we move them to the, hey, do you want to just do this weekly? Like versus like, and I think that if we go back to the adage of like fire fast, hire slow, like we want to like always hold into contract and like ticket based longer because it makes them prove themselves and we have to less care about cultivating them as a team member, and which then allows, it just gives you more time to ship, right? Mm-hmm. Like at the end of the day. So, and it allows us to say like, all right, cool, we don't need you anymore. It's like a very clear like ending of the thing. Like you've done what we've asked you to do. Thank you. Move on. We'll call you later. So yeah, I like that. But again, just thinking through, like I'm going back to like the 2026. How do we build? How do we? I love what you said about writing things down publicly, giving yourself the space to think through things, test things, and like I think that flywheel alone will supercharge everything, and just making sure we're doing that on the product side, but also on the engineering internal side as well. Like don't treat them as internal, external. Like it's just all should be just like, this is how we think, this is how we work. Mm-hmm. External, right? It's like it's fucking 2026. Like we're building in public. Let's literally do that. Okay, cool. The only other thing, and I don't know if you've seen it since I posted it, I don't know if you checked it out or not, but I wanted to just double click into it, is did you see the proposal I sent to Seeker with Evan? Okay.
No, sir.
So let me really quickly, and I sent it to you. So
proposal to who?
To Seeker.
Oh, I vaguely remembered that.
I sent it. It was like like when we first were talking about the contract.
Was that the one that the enterprise client for this month, for December?
Yeah. I
think I read over that. That was before the
holidays.
Stuff to read channel.
Correct.
I read through that, and I think I replied to
it. In it, there is. So when I had a conversation with him, he literally laid out what he wants out of like us to build, like for his org. And so I kind of like took that meeting, like made it into a calendar and stuff. But I would just say like to reference that into your timeline, because that's going to be like he's going to be going off of that as well. And like it doesn't need to be verbatim, like we'll be able to be movable and change things and fluid with it, but it's like a good place to like ground expectations for one of our enterprise customers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think like same thing with all of our enterprise customers is like having that, giving ourselves like turning those into tickets and then thinking through how do we like scope these out? Should we just have Claude like write plans for everyone and then go try them in one day and see if it all gets done in a week? Like what we think is going to take a year because we have to like do it week by week, we could just scope it all out in a day. Like these are all tests we could try, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
I think 2026 is like my goal. One is obviously retain and like 10x enterprise and retention and revenue.
Yep.
And on the other side is like how do we become the most cutting edge music company in the space? Like how do like we define our brand and ourselves internally, like as just like we are so ahead of everybody because everybody else has so much other shit that they're doing. Like, but we have this opportunity to be we are pushing the models to the fucking tippy toe edge of what they're capable of. And like our harness enables us to do that. And that's with our product and with our org, like pushing the fucking models to the edge. And if there's anything stopping us from pushing the models to the edge, those are the things that we need to implement ASAP, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
and I think if we just do those things, we're gonna be good. I know it's been a little bit longer than 15 minutes, so we can wrap up.
This is an important call. Was there anything we haven't touched on for goals for 2026 that you want to make sure we discuss before wrapping up for the year?
No, I think we're good. We're solid.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will be back on Monday in the year 2026.